In this video, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go through my collection of original comic book art. Some I have raw, some I have framed. One piece that I recently got back from the framers that I showed you in another video. I'll give you a little story behind each one of them, why I own it, what I like about it, and even give you a little story about why I didn't collect original art for a very, very long time. I even have a couple little other fun surprises for you, so stick around and watch the video. Or at least watch for about 2.5 minutes, give it a like, and then you can go. But just give me that view. Just give me the views on Swarm of Comics. Hello and welcome to Swarm of Comics. I'm Randy, your handsome and humble host. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about original comic book art. Back in the day, comic book artists used to not even get their art back from some companies, and the art just sat in archives, and the artists that did get it back sometimes sold it at comic conventions, and it sold and it was somewhat desired, but it wasn't a huge hobby. I feel like the hobby really picked up in the 90s once we started getting online and online shopping, and cons started becoming more and more prevalent. I was definitely interested in it because not only did I love comic books, I loved seeing the secrets behind the art. I loved learning about how they did this. There's so many little things copied and pasted and drawn in and covered up and whited out. It's great to see kind of behind the scenes. I even have one piece of original coloring art. I don't know where I have that. I'm going to have to hunt that down. Maybe show it to you in another video. It's actually a page of Daredevil. So, you know, RIP colorists that do it by hand. I guess everything's digital these days. So I started picking these up because they were individual pieces of art. They were one of a kind. There was nothing like them. Now, of course, I was much, much younger. I didn't have a lot of money, and I had to buy stuff that was super cheap. And that was my introduction to eBay, because that was the best place to buy things at the time. So I used to scour the eBay ads. This is in the 90s. That's how long ago this was. I would say late 90s, early 2000s. So let's show my first piece here. I don't know how they're going to show up on camera, but we're going to figure it out. Let's see what we have here. Oh, do I have multiple pieces in one? Did I not even know that? I might have more pieces than I realized. I have them in these big bags like this, and I had 2 in one bag. So here's the first piece. This is from Marvel Team Up, issue 122. Now, I'll show it to you here. It was the closest I was going to get to be able to afford something with Spider-Man in it. Now, of course, like anything, splash pages are going to be the most expensive. Well, covers are going to be most expensive. Splash pages are going to be second most expensive. And anything that has the major characters on them. That other piece of art that I showed you was Batman, but it wasn't in a Batman book. It was in Suicide Squad, I think it was. But that was my way to be able to get a fairly cheap comic book piece of art with Batman on it. This was my way many, many years ago, 20-something years ago, 25 years ago, of getting something with Spider-Man. You can see Peter Parker in here a lot, and he's leaping onto a car over a car or something like that. So it's a really cool piece of art. Very interesting to see the corners cut. I don't know why. And it says it's page 7 down the corner, but page 8 up here. And that's important for my story later, because if you think about a comic book with 22 pages, all 22 pages used to not be comic book. They were advertisements. So if an artist needed to draw 18 pages or 16 pages for a comic book, they'd just number them 1 through 16. And then there would be alternate numbering that would now number them according to once they put the ads in. So page 8 might really be page 10 once they add in the advertisements pages. So we've got I don't know who did the art on this, honestly. I did not do any research on it. But it does have a cool stamp on the back. 1982. Oh, was this 1982? I think it was 1982. Yep. Cool stamp on the back here. Hopefully you can see if I'm not screwing up the lighting. But it's basically the stamp from Marvel Comics saying it was Marvel Comics art. So that was a cool one. Here was another one that was kind of interesting. This was Punisher art. And I have a couple of pieces of Punisher art. I really wasn't able to buy anything that was in a real Punisher book back at the time. So, you know, annuals are kind of a sneaky way of doing things, as is like off-brands like Suicide Squad or Marvel Team Up. Like, it's not Spider-Man and Batman and Punisher. It's sort of alternate books. And I feel like the Punisher stuff falls into the same category. This is a cool one. It has a bunch of Frank Castle on here, but not big war fighting scenes. Again, that'll make it cheaper. If it's a big one of Frank Castle shooting a gun, it's going to be worth more money than him standing there trying to open a door. So let me show you this. This is from Punisher Annual, issue number 4, page 4. A lot of good blacks around the edges. A lot of cool things of Punisher there, Punisher up there holding an M16. And I talked about sort of the behind-the-scenes stuff that you see. You know, I can see the brush strokes from the inker. I can feel the zip tone. Zip tone is this, like, I don't know if you're going to see it. It's kind of a more an old-school comic book thing. It's sort of a tone, a bunch of dots, and they cut it out and they stick it on there so they don't have to shade it all in or anything like that. You can look up zip tone if you don't know what it is. Including this guy hanging here. This actually wasn't originally drawn here. This was drawn, cut out, and stuck on here in a little zip tone, so it sort of feels like he's in the foreground while we focus in the background on the other characters. So that's kind of neat stuff there. I didn't find either of these pieces super interesting to get framed. Framing can be expensive. We'll talk about that when I get to the frames. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. These are kind of neat. The reason I didn't do this Punisher one is I have another Punisher page that I can do. The next couple I have here are actually DC books, and they go back to also like probably 1983 or 4, and they are from the Omega Men. And these are interesting. First of all, I'll tell you they're interesting because the pages are bigger. DC used bigger pages for their artwork at the time. Sorry, I'm trying to pick up the other one. So hopefully you'll be able to see the difference in sizes of pages. I've only got so much space here. So you can see the big difference in sizes. This here is Omega Man number 8. I was a huge Omega Man fan. I don't know how I picked it up in a 50-cent bin. I happened to pick it up. I wasn't a big DC reader, and I was attracted to the book for some reason. It was sort of the space stuff. It wasn't Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. It was different. And I started picking it up, and I absolutely loved the series. It petered out at the end a little bit. And I never even read the books that it came from originally. It came from another series. But I did love it. And of course, what Omega Men is best known for is where Lobo comes from. Lobo appeared in issue 3, I think it is. Somebody will correct me in the comments. I don't know what it is. But this is issue 8 of it. Beautiful colors, beautiful art. Also has the stamp on the back from DC Comics 1983. It does say that. Again, no big action on here, but it is a pretty cool page and beautiful art. You can see that the edges have blue because the blue doesn't photocopy. So when they photocopy this and shrink it down for coloring, this stuff doesn't show up. So sometimes you'll see blue pencil. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but somebody's drawn blue pencil here, making a note to do something. And that's what it is. You can see the stuff that's in the columns. I can't really read it, but there's a lot of writing in the column here. These were notes that editors and artists would make. Oh yeah, there's some great ones up here. Maybe you'll catch it on camera. I can't really tell. So this was in an issue of Omega Men, and then I have another one here that's very interesting. This is issue number 4. This was page 19. And what you'll see is that there's a whole page overlay there. And I'll take this out, right? Hope I don't wreck anything taking this stuff out. I haven't touched this stuff in years. Yeah, this is cool stuff. Also back in the day, what you'll notice the difference between more modern books and older books is the older books used to stick on all of their word balloons and then the letterer would write in them. Now they don't do that. I'll show you a couple of pieces of art, or at least one piece of art where there's no lettering at all because somebody just went in and did it digitally later. and stopped writing directly on them. So this is the page that we have right here. I don't know if there's anything cool about this page. Not super cool, but it's kind of neat. It's got some, again, some cool notes down the side here. And then there's this, which goes over it and sort of fills in some of these blank spaces like this. And you would put this over it and it would fill in the blank spaces. I'm not going to line it up right. And then they would copy it from there. So somebody went in and didn't know what to do or hadn't finished the art, and then somebody came in here and added in and drew it on. And it's stuck on there, you can see. So this came with this overlay page as well. It says Surprint. I don't know enough about the industry to know what that means. So those are my raw pieces of art there. And I find those pretty cool. Those are kind of neat. So I'll get those back at the bags afterwards. So let's move on to the framed stuff. And I mentioned framing of the art. A funny story for you, and I'm sure my mom will laugh at this, but not laugh at this. When I bought some of this art and I wanted to get it hung up and hang it in my apartment, I hung it over the couch in the living room when I first got it. My mom said, well, she's the queen of crafting, the queen of coupons. She says, we got to go to Michael's and we'll get 50% off coupons. And for your birthday or Christmas or whatever it was, she goes, I'll frame like 4 pieces of art for you. I'm going to be honest with you. None of those old ones were very expensive. I mean, I probably back then paid in the less than $100 to $100 and something per one. So the funny story is that my mom went to go get them framed, and I wanted this cool brushed metal looking frame. They sell you and tuck you right into everything. They're like, well, you're going to want it UV protecting, so you want UV protecting glass. You want no glare, so it doesn't show a glare on your glass. And when you put the matte in, you want a matte that doesn't show when they cut it away like the cardboardy color in between. So I wanted a black matte. And, everything just added up. And I remember the look on her face when she saw how much it was to get 4 or 5 of them framed, whatever it happened to be at the time. It was more than the art. It was more than the art. But they did look beautiful, and I do love her for doing that for me and investing in my hobby and being a part of it. So let's see what I got here for some of these. I'll show you my first one here. I'll probably show you video footage cut in somewhere or a couple of photos of them up on the wall where I have them now. Some of these have moved around with me for a long time. So here's what it looks like in the frame. We're going to do our best here with our little camera lens or whatever. And this is an issue of Silver Surfer. You can see the mostly no glare glass in there. It's kind of got a little bit of a frosted look to it, and it's UV protecting. And these have been in here for a very long time and not faded at all. This is heavy too. This is heavy duty hanging here. This isn't just a crappy frame from Walmart or something like that. This is Silver Surfer issue 106, number 11, story page number 11, but lineup page, that's what it says. Lineup page is 14. So it was the 14th page in the book after ads were added. This has got a really cool close-up of the Silver Surfer. It's got some good expression on there. I don't know who the artist is off the top of my head, but this was one of the first pieces I had done. Pretty cool stuff. I like this. Just going to put them on the side over here. Probably just see them leaning against the wall. That's fine. There's secrets behind the scene. Let's see. Next piece here. This was the Punisher Annual that I did get framed. Punisher Annual number 4, page 5. So apparently I have page 4 and page 5. There's some action there. The Punisher's diving on the floor. Somebody's got a gun. Oh yeah, the Punisher throws a knife into a guy's face. He's punishing him. So that's why I chose this one. A little bit more action, pretty cool. And it's a Punisher book. I know we're not supposed to like the Punisher anymore because whatever reason everybody's been co-opted by so many different people and groups, but back then the Punisher was a really cool character. The Punisher back in the day was an assassin. The Punisher at one point back in the day, one of his storylines was he kind of like went crazy and got overwhelmed with his mission of what he was doing. Like he would like shoot people for littering, like he completely went mental insane. It was very, very cool stuff they did with him back then. One of the big anti-heroes. All right. Here is a really cool one. This is one of my favorite ones. Unfortunately, it's not his first appearance. This is issue 10 of Omega Men. And the reason this is important is because this is not the first, maybe not even the second, but one of the first early appearances of Lobo. So you'll see this one here. This is a big one. As you can see, there's less of a frame of the mat around it because these were the bigger pages. But if I zoom in, let's see where. There's a bunch of places. Lobo's up there in the corner. Back when he was wearing his purple and orange spandex. Where else is Lobo? Lobo's face down here. You can see sort of these panels where it's like a sliver of each person's face. So this is an early Lobo back from probably 83, 83, 84. So this is in beautiful shape. The other Omega Men pieces of art aren't in as good of shape as this one. So this is one of my favorite things. Early Lobo appearance. Goofy Lobo. Back in the day. Before his history was established, he was a bounty hunter. And he was partnered. He had a partner. His name was Bedlam. And he was dressed like a cowboy with like a cloth mask hanging over his face. It was weird. All right, what do we have next? Oh, so this one has no word balloons, but it might have not had any word balloons to begin with, but we're back to an issue of Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer isn't on it, but there's a lot of action. And artwork-wise, this might be the best piece that I actually have. The art on this I absolutely love. It's stunning. It looks like it has what's it called? The gargoyle. The gargoyle and then somebody else, I'm not sure who it is. I'd have to look it up. This is issue 139 of Silver Surfer, page 16. Just look at this use of negative space and this art. Soak that in for a second. Look at that. Zoom in on your phone if you can. But that is just a stunning, stunning piece of art. Doesn't even matter if it's comic book art. It's just as a piece of art. I absolutely love this. That's amazing. So maybe I'll go look up who did the art in 139 of Silver Surfer. Whoever did it it's my maybe my favorite piece of original art I have. All right. Now we're going to move into what's next. The frames and everything will look a little bit different on that. Actually, I'm going to do a different piece first. This is probably by far my most expensive piece. It's way over there. I'm going to go grab it. This piece was not from eBay. This piece came from a site called albertmoy.com. He's, as these artists started selling their own art, this guy created a website in sort of a broker. He's a broker for comic book art. You can go to his page, sort by the artist, and see their collections of things for sale. I've negotiated with him when I purchase things. When communicating, so if you're interested, try negotiating. If it's a buyer's market, maybe you can get a discount. I did. So let me just grab this piece. Frame is a little different in this one because the other ones I got framed like 20-something years ago. This one I got framed like 10 years ago, and then the other pieces I've gotten framed in the last 2 months. So the frames just aren't the same over time. They change, but they're all the general idea. So you probably wouldn't have noticed until I pointed out. But this is the comic book Hulk versus Thing. This is issue 2, and this is page 1, and it is a splash page by Jay Lee, one of my absolute favorite artists. I don't care what you think about him. I don't care what you think about his art. I love it. It is absolutely amazing. I'm going to tell you, I don't even see a single pencil mark on here. There's not a single pencil mark. I'm pretty sure he drew this with ink. There's nothing erased. There's not even any blue lines. There is absolutely nothing. And you've got a splash page of the Hulk and the Thing. Much cheaper than getting a page of the Hulk, and much cheaper than getting a page of the Thing from Fantastic Four. But absolutely fantastic. Again, no word balloons. Everything was added afterwards. So I love that. Love that piece. Love that piece. Now we're going to talk about the newer stuff. Got a couple more here. I guess there's some stories behind those. I promised you guys a story, but the big story's coming. But you get the general idea of why I purchased some of these. I'm basically doing it budget-wise. This is budget collecting of original comic book art. I guess that's what I should have called the video. How can you budget buy original comic book art? Buy what you like, buy the characters you like, buy books that maybe aren't as popular or something like that to still have it. And, you know, I don't know if these are an investment. I don't know if they're worth anything more than what I originally paid for them, but they are. Very beautiful to display. Now, this is a book that this is a page that I just got framed maybe 2 months ago, not even. It's actually not from a comic book. It's a reproduction done by the original artists. And this has become a big thing. Somebody wants a piece of original art that's just beautiful. You know, if it's something expensive, you're never going to get it. It's just probably not out there. How would you ever find it? It'd be very hard. So artists started getting into reproductions. Artists would redo their own covers. They'd redo their own splash pages. They would redo famous things that they had done in the past that they don't even own the art of anymore. Somebody else owns. So these reproductions are fun. My friend is an inker, well known in the Marvel world back in the day, named Mark McKenna. Make sure you go follow him on Instagram. So go find Mark McKenna on Instagram. And this was a reproduction that he did with the original artist for a Doctor Doom splash page. You know, this page could be $10,000, the original one, $100,000. But this is a beautiful hand-done reproduction. If you look close, you can see the brush marks on the for the inks and everything like that. Beautiful display piece. Wasn't super expensive comparatively, and it looks beautiful displayed up on my wall. And that was before Doom even became super hot because he was going to be in the movies. Again, he's going to be in the movies. All right. We'll get to the big story. Do you want the big story or do you want the new piece of art? We'll do the new piece of art. Let me switch these around. This is the new piece of art. Go find the video where I unbox this. This is Suicide Squad issue 40 or something like that, back from like 1993. And I'm getting it out of the plastic here. All right. There it is. All nice and framed. Again, this is a Suicide Squad issue back from, I think, 93. I can't remember. And it has Batman on it, his era of the Lamborghini Batmobile, although somebody pointed out he had a similar earlier version of a Lamborghini. So maybe he's had a few different models of Lamborghinis over the year from the 70s into the 90s. As I talked about before, good way to pick up a book with Batman prominently featured in it. He's not fighting anybody or beating anybody up, but he is jumping over his Batmobile, which is also him pasted on. That wasn't drawn there. Somebody drew that and then stuck it on afterwards, and you'd never know it once you get the original, once you get your comic book. It's cool because what they did is, I hadn't seen this much before in my art, but the two artists, inker and penciler, autographed down the bottom of the book, and I had them frame it so it's right on the edge because their autographs are right on the edge, but they were able to frame it and not hide those autographs. So they did a great job, and it looks awesome. That's my newest piece. I don't know if I have any wall space ready for it. I have to figure out what to do with it. So, before we get too long into this video, we're going to get into my final piece of art and why I stopped collecting. And honestly, I stopped collecting because I was bitter. I was upset. I got screwed over, and it stuck with me. So as I mentioned earlier, I was buying books on eBay. I'm kind of a noob here. I don't have any money, probably scraping together enough to buy these books and so forth. And I really did like a character named Deathstroke the Terminator. I remember picking up the book when he got his own book. I really thought it was a fun, cool book, although I didn't read Deathstroke the Terminator really before that. It must have been a premiere of his own series, and I decided to pick it up. And I did, and I liked it. So some original Deathstroke the Terminator art came up on eBay for auction. Maybe 2000, 2001. So we're talking 24 years ago now. I don't know how that's gone by so fast, but anyway, this is a piece that I bought and I didn't get framed until a couple of months ago. So I owned it for 24 years and I didn't get it framed. And you're going to think I'm silly because it's actually a beautiful piece of art. Here's the story for you. Here's the story. We're getting to the story. I find this piece of art. It's this amazing splash page of Deathstroke the Terminator going full Rambo. Shirts off, big machine gun, firing it. I mean, it has just all these dynamics to it. It was perfect. And it was expensive, but not too expensive. But in my budget, I was pushing a little bit. And I can't remember where the store was. I actually still have the original envelope that I bought it in because I still had it in that shipping envelope. I could find the name of the store that I bought it from and tell you their address and where they are. I can't remember. They were in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York. So I win this auction. I don't think you could do buy it now at the time. I think I won the auction. I think back then you just had to win them. I won the auction. I wait. It gets sent to me. I finally get it in the mail. I open it up, and it's the wrong page. It's not the right page. It's not dynamic at all. It's not anything. So I call the store. I mean, I don't know if I could have even emailed them or reached them, but I called the store. And I remember it took forever for somebody to get the phone. I think I called for a couple of days. Finally, somebody answers, and I said, I got the wrong piece of art. And they said, well, let me look into it. And they came back to me, and they said, we screwed up. We sent you the wrong book. Now, remember earlier I talked to you about the numbering. There's the number of pages. I drew 16 pages, but once you put them in a comic book where there's full page ads, it's suddenly 22 pages in the book. So your page 10 might become page 12, whatever it happens to be. They said to me, that's how we messed up. You were supposed to get page 10, but we sent you page 12 because the numbering, we looked at the wrong number on there. And I said, okay, well, can I get my page? And they said, no, we sold it to somebody and sent it to them in France. And they're never going to send it back. You're just either stuck with that page or put it in the mail and send it back to us, and then we'll give you your money back. And back then I was like, there's not a chance I'm going to risk you giving me my money back. We didn't have all the eBay safeguards that there are now. And I know they're probably not watertight, but they're a billion times better than 25 years ago. It was just a hope and a prayer. Yeah, I'll just send your art back and you're going to send me my money. Sure. You know, how much did people care about ratings on eBay back then? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know if I would have known enough to give them a bad rating. I just know I wasn't sending it back. And I felt like I got screwed. And I did not use eBay again until less than 2 years ago. 2023? 2022? I went 20 plus years of not using eBay because that experience soured me so much. And I was so upset 20 years later, 23 years or 4 years later, I didn't even get the artwork framed. And every time I would look at it and look at my little sleeve of original artwork, it would upset me. It would upset me. You know? I don't know what they could have done better for me. Yeah, maybe they would have sent my money back. But I don't know. I didn't do it. So I finally decided to stop being the big goddamn crybaby. And I got the art framed. So now let me show it to you. And again, you'll probably say, that's beautiful. This is a great piece of art. But it wasn't as good as the one that I tried to buy. And that's what upset me. So yes, this is Deathstroke the Terminator, issue number 16. I'll even show it to you. So here it is. Here is the infamous art. For me, it's the most infamous piece in my collection. It's him laying down on the ground, unconscious, dead, who even knows? But if you look up in the corner, here, let's see if my camera focuses. There's two different numbers. One says page 23, and one is penciled in red for page 27. So this was the 23rd page drawn, but it ended up being page 27. And they sent me the wrong one. They mixed them up. And that's what happened. I don't remember which page I originally bought, 23 or 27, but that's how I got screwed over on eBay by this company in Buffalo, New York. Gorgeous piece. Beautiful. But not what I wanted. But I finally got it done. and it hangs up on my wall, and I'm happy with it. Maybe just how long it took. So that is the final piece of original comic book art that's part of my collection. I hope you found that fun. The little bonus, I said we're going to look at all the art, but a little bonus fun thing here before the video gets too long. How long? Half an hour now? Sorry about that. Hopefully you stuck around this long. Make sure you please like, subscribe, add comments. That stuff really does help to get more viewers, more people interested, and become more of my little community. There's so many people that comment all the time, you know. I jot down their names and say it, but there's all these people that comment, and everybody's so nice. I love it. You guys always have such good feedback. My last video I did where I got my books damaged, probably by CGC. I had such great advice, such great feedback, such great, you know, people feeling my pain. I love that, and I appreciate that, guys. So, you've heard me talk about being in a band, but I was in another band and another band before that. I think I started being in bands in 1993. My first band, if I haven't talked about it, was called Despair, named after the comic book character in Marvel comic books, D''Spayre. No club ever spelled it correctly. We eventually changed some members and we were called Exceed. It was more of this hardcore metal sort of thing going on in the late 90s, and that name was tougher, meaner. But after that, I was in a band called Moto Cops 2000, MK2K for short. The band was started with me and my friend Dave Novan, and soon after that, after we'd been a band for a couple of years, we were joined by his friend Derek Albertelli, and Derek is in my band Swarm of Eyes now. So one of the things we did is that we decided, you know, we put out an album. We've done a bunch of demo CDs. We would put out a real honest-to-God album. You could go find it on Spotify, and you can find our new album that we just did after 4 years of not doing any music. One of the things we decided to do to be creative, we were always sort of a tongue-in-cheek metal band, a little bit industrial. We had no drummer, no bass player. Everything was programmed. We were sort of like Ministry, and we were ahead of our times. People would come see us play, and we'd have no drummer, no bass player. We didn't even have cabs. The guitars went right through the monitors. It would literally just would show up with a duffel bag and a little guitar, and we would play. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. We decided to do a press kit. And it was going to be, back then, everybody had these press kits you'd send out to clubs and record labels and everything. And we decided to do a comic book press kit. I did not dig out the actual comic book, but we did get enough printed for the band. And then we decided not to be a band anymore. Dave moved to California, and we didn't go any further than that. But I did find in the storage with the original comic book art that I just showed you, pages that I drew of this. And I remember, this was 2003, 22 years ago, whatever it was. And I drew them, inked them, and then they were scanned in, and I digitally colored them in Photoshop. I didn't know what I was doing. I've got no training in Photoshop. I've just learned it manually along the way. But these are some of the original pages that I penciled and then inked. It's not actual comic book size. There's no real story. The idea was it would be a bunch of panels in a short comic book, and in the word balloons would be the information about our band. Oh, Dave and Randy got together and started the band. Oh, Derek joined. We play out of Boston, Massachusetts, whatever it happened to be. So let me show you a couple of these pages, not to go on too long. So here's one of them. Here. It's just drawing paper. I'm not a great artist, but, I had fun with it. Apparently, I've got a big close-up of Derek here with all of his teeth. Derek has like 47 teeth. This is the three of us up the top going after some big, giant, generic robot. So that's one page. I'm laughing as I look at him because it's so dramatic. And I'm being honest, I probably looked at existing comic books and found poses that I wanted to use and just copied them. I didn't trace anything, obviously, but, I would draw it. So here's probably me, not probably me, it's definitely me, but it's embarrassing, fighting and punching a robot and everything like that. Here's Dave and Derek going after this robot. This is apparently a very powerful robot. This was a sketch that I did of the of Dave as, I don't know, he's probably some type of Juggernaut type ripoff or something like that. I think Derek was a ripoff of Doctor Strange, but this is just, I sketched out and said, inked it and said that was going to be what Dave looked like in the comic book. I've got a whole bunch of pages here. Oh, this is like the mock-up of the cover, I guess. Dave was supposed to be this gigantic one, but apparently he's tiny. I guess I didn't have any concept of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but apparently proportions or something like that. But it worked. And the funny story is, we hired somebody who we had met. We had played a Battle of the Bands, and she was one of the judges, and she really liked us. And she ended up she was going to school to become a lawyer in the entertainment business, and she was doing some booking, and she booked a tour for us that we went on. She also took a copy of our comic book, and when she was in school, now she became a teacher in school. And she actually, in her class in talking about music, used ours as an example of a creative press kit. Like more recently, Killswitch Engage a few years ago did something similar where they put in sold people merch in a pizza box. And, that was, doing creative things to connect with your fans or to get yourself more recognition. So this is one page that was unfinished. I probably didn't like it. It probably wasn't good. So you can see some of the rough pencils here that I did. And that was it. And that was my little bonus surprise for original comic book art. My own comic book art. So that's all I've got for you guys. Also, shout out to my Blue Beetle #1 shirt here. This is a shout out to Justin Cooper. Hopefully you watch this and he sees this and says, oh man, that was so nice of Randy. I was just in a podcast with him. I was featured in a podcast as a guest on Retro Redoctopus. You can go find that, I'm sure, on YouTube and Spotify and everywhere. I'll try and put a link down in the description for that I was featured on. We talk about Golden and Silver Age characters, kind of obscure things, and everybody sort of brought some to the table and discussed some characters and their background and history and why they were important to the industry. And also shout out to my buddy Max, the Joy of Cardboard, here on YouTube, and he's also on Instagram. He loves the Blue Beetle, and he actually owns a #1 issue, like I think 1.5. So that's all my shout outs. That's all I have. So that's all I have. So thank you for joining me, guys. Love everybody. Thanks for joining me at the channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Catch you next time.